Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another Pinball A Movie episode. Today, we'll be talking about the Twilight Zone movie, which released in 1983. So, if you're familiar with the pinball table from Williams that released in 1993, that table was actually based on the original TV series from Rod Serling. That ran from 1959 to about 1964. So this Pinball in a Movie is going to be a little different, as the table isn't really based on the 83 movie, but the 83 movie is actually interesting because 3 of the segments in the movie are based on the original TV, on the original show from the original series. And one of them, it was actually created for the movie, so it's kind of a story that was created just for the movie, which makes this movie pretty interesting. So, Twilight Zone the movie is, as you know, based on the classic TV series, and it kind of presents itself in that way, where it's cut up into segments or stories. And what was interesting to me when I was reading about this film was that originally the movie was supposed to dramatize one of the episodes in the original Twilight Zone TV series. So I think when they say dramatize, they were supposed to make, essentially a 30-minute episode and make it into a full-length film. But that's not how it ended up being. And then they also had planned, one of the producers of the film, Steven Spielberg, suggested that there be 3 stories. And the stories were supposed to be all interconnected somehow. But that also didn't work out. So instead, what ended up happening was the film ended up being basically 4 separated segments into 1 hour long movie. And I thought that was okay, because I don't think that, really, the Twilight Zone episodes were, they were known for being short and sweet. Right? You got a lot for 30 minutes. You got a lot of story, plot, and surprise all in one. So I don't think them making 1 episode into a full-length film would have worked, but who knows? So the way it's done is kind of like you're watching Twilight Zone with color and better, better filming, better technology, right? But what's kind of interesting about this film is that while I was reading about it, was that there was an accident that happened on set where they were filming one of the segments, the first segment in the movie, and the pyrotechnics that they were using for the explosions were too close to the low-flying plane. And one of the actors and 2 other people ended up passing away in the accident. So Vic Morrow was one of those passengers, and he plays a part in the first segment. But it was such a big kind of controversy, and it's something that kind of, I feel like, kind of haunts the movie in a way, because they didn't know whether to cut out the whole segment or to cut out parts. So they ended up cutting out parts of it. So there's different cuts of it, I'm assuming. But the version I watched, they didn't include that part, with the plane. But a very sad kind of, thing that happened. And it's unfortunate, because you don't ever want that to happen when you're filming a movie. And so Spielberg was very adamant about, saying that, if actors don't want to film something, it's wholly in their right to say, to cut it out. You know, like they don't have to, you know. But at that time, in the early '80s, when technology and pyrotechnics were, you know, popular, and you know, before stunts were, you know, from trained professionals, and all, they had all the, before really all the safety regulations. This was what was going on, right? So, you know, filming certain scenes could be very dangerous in some movies, and this was one of them. So that's something that I found kind of interesting about this movie that I had never known about, was the accident on the set involving the plane. But other than that, you know, I think you had some interesting, like the introduction, the opening scene. You see Dan Aykroyd, which was really funny to me, because you think it's opening up into the segment, but it's just the opening up of the movie. And so it was cool to see Dan Aykroyd in that opening segment. It was kind of, you know, scary too, where they kind of talk about, you know, episodes from the original series, which I thought was cool. And so I think seeing Dan Aykroyd was a nice kind of like thing to see, you know, because I've been seeing him on Saturday Night Live, and I've been seeing him in movies like Ghostbusters, right? So the four segments or episodes in the movie were kind of, you know, some people like certain episodes, some don't like them, right? It's kind of like how the actual Twilight Zone series worked, where you're gonna like some episodes and other ones you'll just find fall kind of flat. And so the first episode that was written by John Landis was actually, like, in my opinion, one of the better episodes. It was loosely based off one of the episodes in the original series, but I thought it was really good. It was probably my favorite one. You know, the first segment was basically about a guy who, you know, travels back in time to, like, you know, different parts of history, right? So he travels back to World War II, Europe, the segregated South, and then the Vietnam War. So that was a cool episode. I liked it because it kind of makes you see the other side. So it's an episode that makes you, focuses your mind towards empathy. And then the other episode, which was based off the Kick the Can original episode, basically talking about being young and how being young is sometimes all in the mind. I thought that was an okay episode. I didn't really like it that much. The third segment, which was based on the episode It's a Good Life, was about a kid who can imagine things and wish for anything, but is never satisfied. So he could, you know, wish and imagine that he was eating whatever he wanted, living wherever he wanted, but he could never, you know, be happy with his situation. And then the fourth episode was my least favorite, just because it was good filming, but I already knew what was going to happen because it was based off Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, which was the first film that I actually watched when I got into the original series. That episode starred, what's his name? William Shatner, right? So that was what made it kind of stand out to me. But like I said, you know, I think the beginning was cool with Dan Aykroyd. You had the film, even in the beginning, mentioned Outer Limits. I thought the beginning was a great setup for the movie. And Twilight Zone, the movie, was cool because you're basically seeing Twilight Zone episodes remade in color, where the original Twilight Zone was in black and white for the most part. So I hope you enjoyed this Pinball A Movie, and let me know if you've seen the movie or what you think about it. But I highly recommend it. It caught my attention, and it had a great cast, so it has my recommendation. Till next time.